Welcome to the Picky Girl Travels podcast, the show for Black women who want more out of life and to live it as they see fit. The message here is all about defying convention, embracing adventure, and regretting absolutely nothing. I am your host, Adelia Borchade of PickyGirlTravelsTheWorld.com. I have been meaning to make this episode for months, but I could never sit down and get my thoughts in order because otherwise it was just going to be me yelling at the camera, and y'all don't want that. And so I finally had some time and I did it. And so here we are. A little while ago, I'm sure it has been months ago, a friend of the show, friend of the Picky Girl Nation, former guest, Stephanie Perry, released I'm not sure if it was a reel or a short on YouTube, in which she declared that she does not care about Black women's purpose. Let's watch that video.
I don't care about your purpose. I don't care about your purpose. I don't care about your purpose. Live your dreams. I think Black women have done enough operating within our purpose to the detriment of our own dreams. If you have a purpose in life, okay, but how your dreams doing? If you don't know your purpose and you're struggling with that, change the question. Not what is my purpose? What are my dreams? Too many times Black women get the message to be for others more than you are for yourself. Show up for others in a way that you don't show up for yourself. Sacrifice for yourself in order to pour into others. I've opted out. I wish I could do that for you too, right? I think enough with your purpose. Live your dreams.
Now, I, like most of you, watched that and was like, hell yeah. I saw that as encouraging and uplifting. I was very surprised that a lot of the responses Stephanie got on this notion of, Black women, purpose isn't important, dreams are. She got a lot of negative comments, and that caught me by surprise. And I think it is worth digging into a little bit of that people, and when I say people, I mean internet people, get upset when a woman says, I don't care about your purpose. I want you to live your dreams. People get feeling some kind of way about the idea of women who look like Stephanie and me, poo-pooing what society wants and choosing to live their dreams. And I think we have to ask ourselves, if this was a man encouraging other men to forego purpose and focus on their dreams, would the response be the same? Would anyone, male or female or non-binary, be in the comments saying, no, this is bad, this is wrong, and respond in a negative way? I don't think so. I think the negative responses she received to this were specifically because she was a woman saying it and she was saying it to other women. And so I think we need to ask ourselves, why is that? Why is it the kind of default reaction to respond this way to women saying, I want to follow my dreams, you should follow your dreams? Now, I do not have all of the answers, but I think these are thoughts and questions and issues we should explore. And I will say, because when I watched Stephanie's video and saw the negative comments she got, I was like, why? Why would they react this way? And so that made me then ask myself the question about purpose. Where does this notion, this idea that we're supposed to have a purpose, where did that even come from? I mean, think about it yourself. Haven't you been told multiple times throughout your life that you should be working on finding what your purpose is and making sure that you live that? But I don't know, do we get the same nudge, the same advice about finding our happiness? Now, on this channel, on this podcast, you do, because that's that's what I'm about. But I don't know that anybody in my life ever said to me, Adelia, really give some thought as to what will make you happy and how you can pursue that. I was encouraged to think about what I wanted to do when I grew up as an adult, and not like toward my happiness, but more about how you gonna feed yourself. How do you want to make money? I went through a whole period of my life where I was like, am I living my purpose? What is my purpose? And I never stopped to question, why did I even need a purpose? Or was that correct that I should be working toward fulfilling and living this purpose? So as I started to think about this in response to Stephanie's video, I asked myself and I asked Google, like, why do we need a purpose? What is that whole thing about? And what I found was a little interesting. The idea is that having a purpose gives your life meaning. When I read that, it made me feel some kind of way, because in essence, what you're saying is, if I don't figure out what my grand purpose is here on earth, my life is meaningless. My existence is meaningless. I don't like that. So like, if you don't have a purpose, if you can't figure out a purpose, what is the point of you being here? Like I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea. I did find one website that said, some medical psychological website, that basically having a purpose improves your mental and physical well-being. And I could see how in some ways that would be the case, but I could also see how the pressure we put on ourselves to define our purpose, to follow our purpose, to find our purpose, can be stressful and induce some not so good mental feelings. So I don't know about that either. But one thing that did strike me about all of the sites and articles that I've read is this overarching theme of purpose being about service to other people, obligation to other people. And when I read that, all of a sudden, the response that Stephanie, a Black woman, got for saying on the internet that your purpose isn't important, your dreams are, all of a sudden, it started to make sense. Because if there's one thing that I have learned in my 3 years of making this podcast, my 2 years of being on YouTube and making content for the internet, is that folks get mad when women follow their dreams. On the one hand, that's not a surprise. But on the other hand, I think that's a really sad statement about our society and our culture, that when a woman follows her dream, folks get upset about that. Why? Because she is no longer she is no longer putting herself on the back burner to lift everybody else up. Because when you follow your dreams, you are centering yourself, and not everybody else. This whole channel is about Black women centering themselves and what they want. And what I have found over the years is that is like this revolutionary idea. It's this crazy idea that you would put yourself first and other people second. And it's revolutionary and radical because the way our society works, it is absolutely dependent on the unpaid labor, whether it be physical, whether it be emotional, of women. And think about how much of our society needs the unpaid labor of Black women in so many ways. We're not going to get into that today. We talked about it before, but it's still a thing there. And so we heard Stephanie encourage Black women to be selfish. I want to share with y'all some of the responses that she received. And I'm curious if you will pick up on the same things that I picked up on. We have Golden saying, sounds great, but purpose has to be considered when children are involved. That's a fact. This other person, this is coming from a woman with no maternal instincts. Once they are built in, you have a family. You think that it's your purpose. I'd say find a way to fit your purpose into your dreams. James Montgomery says, everyone has to make sacrifices unless you're selfish. Chasing dreams is temporary fulfillment unless it brings you to your purpose. It feels good to bring something of value to others. Are y'all noticing? Are you noticing what I'm noticing here? Wendell Scott. Black women have always done whatever they wanted to do, regardless of whomever it may have harmed or helped. I notice being selfish is a negative thing. And I noticed that most of the people who had issue with what Stephanie was encouraging of us appear to be, by the names they've used, men. I wonder if there's any kind of connection there. Again, I can't help but to wonder why something as simple as, hey, I care about your dreams, focus on your dreams, why that is met. Why is that so threatening? Because that's what I feel like I'm hearing in these responses, that by encouraging women to step away from purpose and toward dreams, like that is a problem. It's no, no, no. Purpose, you've got to have purpose. And I wonder if that has anything to do with purpose being so much about you being in service to other people rather than servicing yourself. Now, I know y'all already know this, but I'm going to say it out loud. I am with Stephanie Perry on this one. I encourage every one of you watching this, listening to this, to be selfish. It is selfish season. I am always going to tell you to choose yourself first. That's been a recurring theme on this channel. And the reason that has been the case is people will say, you know, putting yourself first, that's being selfish. And they say it in such a way as to communicate to you that being selfish is a negative thing. It is something you should avoid. But is there a single situation you can think of where putting your own well-being first isn't a good thing, where that's a problem. People like to work in hypotheticals and give you different scenarios and play the devil's advocate and give you a situation like there's only one spot left on the lifeboat and it's you and a child. Who should they save? You, of course, are supposed to say they should save the child because you are supposed to sacrifice yourself. But why? Why does the child deserve to be saved and not you? You are deserving of being rescued. Now, I am not saying we should let all the children drown. What I am saying is this idea that as women, as Black women, automatically, when there is a choice between our well-being and somebody else's, we're always supposed to take the back seat. No, I disagree with that. I said a little earlier what those responses say to me is that this notion of obligation, that we are supposed to focus on our purpose, and our purpose is to be of service to other people in some way. And if you're being in service to other people, you're not putting yourself first. And I think about how our culture, how our society works, and how big a role obligation plays. how big a role how big of a role obligation plays in so many things we do. Think about holidays. You're expected Thanksgiving, Christmas, to go over and hang out with family that you may not like. And it's like an obligation. Like, I have to show up. I've got to put on, a good face for everybody, even though you don't like them people. You don't want to hang out with them people, but you do it out of obligation. And that has been normalized in our society. That has been normalized in our society. Same can be said for like Valentine's Day, the obligation men feel to, like, you have to do something on Valentine's Day, because if you don't, even though you may think it is a stupid holiday created by the greeting card industry, you've got to do something because of the obligation. But obligation shows up in other ways. It shows up in our child-parent, parent-child relationships. In my line of work, particularly with financial literacy, planning for retirement, that kind of thing, we see it come up a lot. This expectation that you have had children and you need to save money for them to go to school because college in the United States is super expensive. And there is a certain societal pressure that you do that. If you don't save for your children's college, you're kind of seen as a bad parent, versus saving for your own retirement. Often, there's not enough money to do both. And I have seen so many people opt to save for their children to go to college versus their own retirement. And the reality is, you only got so many years before you need to retire. Your kid has a much longer time frame to work with. But it's this obligation, like that's what you have to do if you're going to be a good parent. The flip side of that is our relationship with our parents. Some of us did not have great parents, yet there is this expectation, this obligation that we perform certain duties for them because that's your mother, that's your dad. Yeah, they're a shitty person. I should not be obligated to do these things. But yet, obligation, this idea that you stuff down what you're feeling, what is best for you, and you put the needs of other people before your own. I also feel this idea that where Stephanie is encouraging us to live our dreams, and these commenters being like, forget your dreams, focus on your purpose. To me, that seems very contradictory to our culture. We those of us from the United States, are part of a culture that says you're supposed to dream big. Anything is possible. Anybody can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Except if your dream, you woman, is about you, no, 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 no. Don't pursue that dream. You know, when you're encouraging a Black woman to live her dreams, all of a sudden, dreaming is selfish. Because we believe in self-care over here. And following your dreams, that is self-care. Putting yourself at the bottom of your priority list in service of a purpose, that is not self-care. Because when we, this idea of selfish being a bad thing, first of all, we reject that. But second of all, there is a difference between being selfish, putting yourself first, and causing harm. And I think in our society, in our culture, we have conflated the two. That you putting yourself first is harmful to other people. And I don't think those two things automatically go together. Can you put yourself first in such a way that you do cause harm? Yes. But is causing harm absolutely necessary in order to put yourself first? No. You can still be a good person and put yourself first. I think putting yourself first is actually key to being a good person and taking care of yourself. Being a good person to me is about being kind and treating people in the way in which you want to be treated. But that doesn't mean putting yourself last or putting yourself in service to other people out of obligation through this notion of purpose. I hope I'm making sense to y'all. Like I told you, this video and the responses got me fired up. And so I have had to work really hard to kind of put my thoughts in order in such a way that they make sense to other people. You know, what is our takeaway here? This idea of pursuing your dreams, not caring about your life having a purpose, rejecting the notion that finding your purpose, following your purpose is necessary. I think that's our first takeaway. And I think our second takeaway is that if you fail to do that, if you don't do that, that is not a personal failing. That is not a mark against you as a human. I think another takeaway from this is, I think this tweet that I'm gonna read for the folks who are not watching this. This is from Melatonin Lau on Twitter. Western cultures believe we must be alive for a purpose, to work, to make money. Some indigenous cultures believe we are alive just as nature is alive, to be here, to be beautiful and strange. We don't need to achieve anything to be valid in our humanness. So I think that is another takeaway for us. You don't have to do anything to be valid in your humanness. And then lastly, I think a takeaway here is that we need to do more dreaming. I will tell you, I've told y'all this before, but maybe somebody new is listening today. For the first 40 years of my life, I did not dream. The first 40 years of my life were about survival. They were not about, there wasn't space. There wasn't time for me to dream and think about what was possible, to think about what would make me happy. I was just trying to get through one day after the other. So if you take nothing else away from this conversation we're having today, it is give yourself more space and more time to explore your dreams. All right. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for watching. If you are watching this on YouTube, hit the like button. Maybe that will help some other Black woman get this video in her feed, and hopefully it'll liberate her. Thank you guys so much. If you are listening to this on your favorite podcatcher, if you can leave a review or you can subscribe, that will be of great help. And that's an easy way to support the podcast. Okay, till next time, guys.